Good morning, Gardenia! Happy Monday. Welcome to Adam versus the Man. Today is Monday, February 8th, 2021. It is getting warm. The days are getting longer. The snow is thawed, and it is a balmy 34 degrees outside right now at 10 a.m. at the Garden of Freedom in northern Arizona. The theme for today's show, I hope you all had a good weekend. I had a great weekend. Got to drive to California and pick up my wife and get back here to the garden and help get her settled and re-nested back on the bus as we wait for our house to get delivered. Today, yeah, of course, someone with my password is first in the comments. Great. But today we're getting a big pile of stuff from Home Depot. Very excited about taking delivery on that. And then the house is getting here. It's a big prefab shed, technically. If you want to be a dick about it, no, but we call it like a house frame or a cabin frame that we're building out, and I'm very excited about getting that here, getting that set up, and having a relatively quick project for having a completely, off-grid home set up. Really excited about this. But today's theme for the show, disregarding Karen. I don't know if we're there yet, but it seems like we're coming to a turning point in how we regard the corona crisis and the Karen virus, as I like to call it. And I guess if I'm going to start on this right away, for the benefit of YouTube censors and my producer's blood pressure, I will disclaimer everything in the show by saying that it's just parody. Nothing is intended to be taken as medical advice or financial advice or any kind of other advice that might possibly trip the censors. It is mere parody, and YouTube should have no problem allowing us to keep this video on the air if they care about free speech. That's a big F. So there's the turning point, though, I'm describing, disregarding Karen. There's a huge drive, and this is, I think, less controversial than any perhaps more specific conclusions. But to say that this threat of the virus, whatever it is being overblown and is being used by the Karens of America, the Karens of the world, nay, to up their game, to turn up the Karen, the control, the pressure, the guilt. I mean, did you ever stop and worry about how many people you might have killed by carelessly spreading the flu? No, you didn't. So keep your bullshit guilt manipulation away from those of us who can see through it, at least. Okay, Karen? But right now that we're seeing the freak outs, and it's the SJW trend of being called out by the right. To, they showed the pictures of all the college kids having meltdowns and stuff. Oh, Jet Petty weighs in with the comment, Karen Orwell. Yeah, there's an Orwellian nature to the. You see, we are seeing how Karens are being used to manipulate society. That Karen behavior is now encouraged and praised and indulged, as opposed to like just dismissed. And there's this parallel, right, with like SJWs freaking out and people coming to disregard that extreme strain of leftism. And I think we're getting to that point. I see it creeping up. I don't want to say that we've come to a turning point yet where we're just disregarding the Karens. But in order to do that, there not only has to be a better understanding of science and the application of that process of understanding reality and nature. And as I've said before, it's not, is it science or not? It's, are you using science to ask the right questions? But one of those that we have to ask is what leads someone to be a Karen? What kind of bullying or insecurity or abuse or deficiency in parenting leads someone to have that kind of pathological desire to control other people? To call the cops on black neighbors because they're using a barbecue pit, like that guy. What leads people to be that? And it's not A lot of loaded terms here. Not totally gender specific. There are the Chads to go along with the Karens, but there is within this COVID crisis a certain I think trend towards a female kind of hysteria, and I hope I'm not being sexist, just uh, or biased in my own observations, but that women are perhaps manipulated by fear in a different way because government knows that it can get away with that, and so I think there's a certain gendered nature to this. I think I'm not going to put my foot any further into my mouth at this point, but there's clearly a gendered nature to the peer pressure around the coronavirus, and there's this indulgence of the gaslighting of the Karens when we sort of engage with them like normal people of their full faculties and in a state of mental health, right? Because what they're doing is gaslighting us. They are helping government gaslight us and deny what we observe and conclude about reality through reason and logic. And instead, we are sucked into a paradigm of fear. Hey, we got another super chat here. Dome at home, 10 euros. Much love from Germany. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you very much. Feeling the love. All right. Yes. Amazing to have that international audience. I was like, euros. Oh, yes, we do have some fans in Germany. I wish I could say they were from the days when I visited with Iraq veterans against the war, but no, we have new fans of Freiheit and Adam versus the Man in Germany. So the Karens now, where this attitude is shifting. You see how we see this, and this reminds me of the bigger point about the censorship of channels like this, and we have been censored very recently for YouTube questioning the efficacy of the World Health Organization or local health authorities' policies in ways that might lead people to not comply with their directives. Pretty close to the exact words that we got by email from YouTube is their excuse for a strike on our channel. And I think, why? Why have the tech giants turned to such a level of censorship? Well, it's that the lies are wearing thin. Disregarding Karen is just one step in this process. And I must say, it doesn't come only from this scientific understanding, this confidence in your reality enough to resist the gaslighting of the Karens. When someone comes at you with fear to control you, if it's not someone doing it from like a fully psychopathic, pure calculated manipulation, if it's one of the Karens that have been roped into this social bullying, they are in a way victims of it too, and they've been given a false reality. They've accepted a false reality, and they're attempting to impose it on you with fear, carrying that fear. And they're doing a kind of subconscious or unintentional gaslighting because they need you to accept their reality, or you're going to kill grandma with the virus that shall not be named. Yeah, yeah. And so disregarding Karen must be motivated by compassion. It's the other thing. It's not just that confidence in your own reality, your own logic and reason, your own senses, your own observations to resist the gaslighting, but you also have to have an attitude of compassion toward the Karens. And instead of accepting their reality and arguing with them about it, and by the way, one of these things that's so important, we shouldn't be arguing against the policies of the lockdowns by saying the virus isn't that bad, because that admits that if the virus is that bad, that you can lock me down and my freedom can be taken away because you're afraid of something. Bullshit. No, we need to be arguing against this, standing firm on the libertarian position, on the libertarian principle that you get to set your level of risk for yourself in your life. And as long as you're not violating anybody else's rights in doing so, you can do whatever you want. Yeah, that's freedom. That's what we're talking about. That's not just freedom, though. That's respect for individual rights. That's love. That's not being a Karen, backed up with the guns of government saying, if you don't do what we say, we're going to call the cops on you. Yeah. And it instead of arguing with them, instead of accepting that false reality, we have to meet them with love and compassion and say, wow, I'm sorry that you're in a state of fear. What deeper need of yours is not being met? And maybe that's the next phase. Maybe I'm seeing ahead like one step too far, but it's beautiful to see that right now we're really the Karens are being taken away from the authoritarians as a weapon of control because we are learning how to disregard Karen. And so for today's show, we've got a couple stories we're going to get to with our executive producer CJ Abernathy in South Dakota because he was at CJ writes Governor Kristi Noem is the Karen of all governors. Oh, now see, we'll get CJ on to talk about this. And Kristi is often Kristi Noem, Governor of South Dakota, is often falsely hailed as libertarian in a meaningful way more than in rhetoric, and she's not. But she's not the worst, and it's worth. I think CJ has a grudge with a bone to pick with her. I'm trying to think of polite way of saying this, but because she has that fake libertarian veneer. Jet petty Karens don't care about freedom. Yes, thank you. That fake libertarian veneer, it's worth going, no, screw her for falsely representing that. Yeah, absolutely. But I don't think she's actually the worst. I think actually in terms of being a totalitarian governor, she's within the bell curve of normal tyranny. All right, so we got a COVID block after that. We got an econ block. We got a fun grab bag. We also have the story about, and this is really more about Kristi Noem and being a typically corrupt Republican governor, the Attorney General hit and run incident. We got an article catching us up on that, and we're gonna get why you got it every time you put her face up there, CJ. People like her more. I hate to say it. CJ thing. I think I don't want to speak for CJ. But some people would say that she has that meth Dakota leanness to her. But she's objectively very attractive, is she not?
I'm not going to speak to her attractiveness on the outside because inside she is a disgusting human being.
Well said. All right, CJ, hold that. We're going to come back to it. Get Jim up here. Let's connect with the audience. Let's get our promos in and talk about Producers Club so that you can figure out how to win membership by having the best comment today. So, Jim, how's it going this morning, brother? Good, Jim?
It's going. Right. What up? You didn't see that comment I just had on the screen? I seen you refresh your.
Yeah. Let's see. Like first domino. People are looking for excuses to act tyrannical. What comes first, the Karen or the state? That's the tough one. Oh, definitely the state. But they are I mean, you can go back. You think about like. I like in understanding current social dynamics. I do like to think back to humanity's state of nature, and I think there were probably dominant men who used aggressively Karen women to control their tribes, but it was still the male driven. Well, this is a weird male-female dynamic to examine. But I'm pretty sure government came first, but somehow from the beginning, Karens have been used by government, by authoritarians. Does that make sense?
I mean, sort of. It sounds to me like, in fact, Karens would have come first. Like you said, governments are first, but Karens were used. If Karens were used to create the government, then right. Karens came first.
Yeah, no, you're right. Then, if you think technically, so if I understand you, you're saying that like in a primitive society there were Karens, and then there was someone like even before
and those Karens nagging the hunters and shit are what causes them to say, "Damn it, we got to create this power structure so we can be in control of everything and shut this Karen up."
Yeah, well, I mean, if you want to play this, this leads me to this weird like battle of the sexes mentality. And I just want to say to any women who are watching that, like, in terms of the evil of the state, on behalf of my gender, or at least my biological body, whatever gender, we deserve responsibility for most of the violence and viciousness of the state. There are people who will say in other areas or overall, women more or have whatever kind of responsibility, and it's all mutual at some point. But in terms of the violence of the state, yeah, it's a men oppressing other men, really, to get advantage with women at that fundamental drive level, right? Men who wanted to first dominate their tribes or their local collectives so they could mate more, right? We are all the descendants of tyrants and assholes and violent conquerors at some point in our genealogy. But I think it came up when Hillary was a potential president, and I would say women should be proud of the fact that no woman has successfully stooped so low as to become president of the United States. Like, no, as long as there will never, I hope we get rid of the presidency before we ever get a woman president. I mean, I hope it's the sooner the better, obviously. But but if women listen, if we do that forever, from now until the end of time, you will be able to blame men for all the evils of the United States federal government. Like, why give that up? Why? No, just let's get rid of it, and then you can. Listen. If every woman in America supports me dissolving the federal government, I will totally encourage it. You can nag me till the end of time about that. If we can just get rid of the federal government in 2024. Yeah.
Yeah. Careful what you wish for. Karen and Alexa, the worst names to have in modern times.
Yeah, no kidding. Or Siri. Siri's her name. Siri.
Yeah,
are there people
less
like
common. That's less common, I'm sure. At least here, we got a super chat for CJ here in Bifford on $2. He spent $2 to say, "Is CJ related Ralph Abernathy? God rest his soul." That's a big negative. I hear him.
By the way, CJ's name is spelled EY, Abernathy, ending in EY, right. And it's a slightly unusual spelling that differentiates him from the rest of the Abernathy clan. But Jim, I guess we should point out there are two ways to win Producer Club membership today. You can have the best comment, and there's going to be a lot. We're going to let Jim decide that because I know we're getting into some hot topics right away. I think this, like, I like having insights like this that I get when I have time to indulge in reading the news. And I see this, like, I don't have a great lineup of stories in the COVID block about Karens being ignored, but it's just the sense that I'm getting of, like, there's a turning point to this. We have the article about the numbers that says it's going to be like 7 years till things go back to normal, and you read the detail even by those projections, that modeling, it's not that bad. But who knows with variants and whatnot. Anyway, so today, Producer Club membership, top super chat, or Jim's favorite comment of the show win membership in the Producers Club. Jim, you want to explain what that is?
Yeah, well, if you visit adamversustheman.com, well, I guess I should answer your question first. The Producers Club is our private chat that we use to talk backstage here and to share links. It's 24-hour private chat with all of us main core members of the team and everybody else that's obviously won or purchased their way into the Producers Club. If you don't want to win access to the Producers Club, but you think it sounds cool and want to join it, that's when you can visit adamversustheman.com and click on the Patreon link, and that'll show you the different levels of support, monthly support that you can offer Adam and the show. $1, $5, $10, or $50 a month are the options. $10 a month is where it's at. That's the sweet spot to get you access to the private Telegram Producers Club chat. You can also visit or join a public Telegram chat at t.me/Adam versus the man. That's our public show chat channel on Telegram. So there's a private one and a public one. You should be in both of them. After that, you can go back to the adamversustheman.com and check out the store that CJ has put together, where if you are a Producers Club member or a better patron, you get 15% off and free shipping from anything you see on the store. Make sure you see that load more button at the bottom, because CJ's put so much stuff up there that there's a couple of different pages worth of stuff. So it's cool to check out. Get yourself some merch. After that, you can go back to Adam vs. the Man. Everything goes through adamversustheman.com. This should be burned into your memory banks, and you should be telling people about it, because once you go back there, we now have a link on the website that will take you to our affiliate, cigarfederation.com. And then once you're there, you can browse around the website and check out all of your exotically flavored cigar products, and anything you want to get from there. You can use promo code ADAM10, all caps, ADAM10, gets you 10% off of your entire order. And then lastly, for leisure and to keep up with Adam, with all the stuff he's got being delivered and being built up and everything up there in Gardenia, go to the Instagram, Garden of Freedom. And check that out. He's got pictures up all the time. He's going to be putting new ones up this week, I'm sure of it.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me, Jim. I at least got to be doing like progress pics on site prep that we've got going on right now, but we'll get to that. Stacking firewood and clearing brush, trying to be like George W.
All right, we got a block going.
Well, let's get CJ up here and keep you up here, and we're going to get into January 6th. CJ, you want me to just get into these first three headlines?
You got it.
All right, so the first one is from The Guardian. Seditionaries, FBI net closes on MAGA mob that stormed the Capitol. It looks like MAGA doesn't even have to be all caps. It's just mega. All right. A huge investigation so far has arrested 235 people, including far-right militants, members of the military, and otherwise unremarkable Trump fans. As prosecutors from the House of Representatives prepare to present their case against Donald Trump at his impeachment trial next week for incitement of insurrection, supporters who heeded his call on January 6th to fight like hell and went on to storm the Capitol building are finding themselves in far greater legal peril. Now, one thing I want to say about all of this before we get into CJ and his experience at the Capitol as it relates to this, and his experience dealing with the FBI following that as it relates to this. Looking at this from the lens that I have been, as seeing this as, man, I feel really wordy this morning, as duopoly drama, it's hard to appreciate the emotional impact and significance of this event for most Americans. And I kind of want to get into that a little bit today and make sure that we appreciate, first, for people on the left, for people who for the last 4 years who have been fed a steady diet of orange man bad propaganda. I shouldn't say that that's propaganda, because the orange man is bad. He's just no worse than most Democrats feeding them that propaganda, right? They're all unethical statists, but they have been fed this personality cult driven brand of bullshit, where Trump is a particularly unique brand of evil. And when they saw this, and it was 5 people died, and it's absolutely true, legit 5 people died. Now you have to understand how they died. And, it's almost more of an impact, more of a tragedy when you go, oh my God, it was 5. How did they die? Right. And one was Ashley Babbitt, right? Hashtag say her name, who was shot by someone I think we still don't know who, the Capitol Police or who knows what agency officer shot her as she was going through a broken glass section of a door, I believe, and was killed. There was no excuse for that from the government side of things, right? And for anybody who says, yeah, we should have a check on police power of some kind based on where we are right now, that's obscene. Then there's the cop who was actually beaten to death, essentially, right? Died of a head wound the next day, I believe. And then there was one who died from some other not quite distinct causes. And then there were 2 other protesters who died, I believe, from heart attacks or similar events like that, as they were a part of this crowd in March. And now we're seeing how this is being used to label even us as libertarians who advocate for nonviolence as terrorists. So, CJ, considering this is still going on, is there anything you want to say about that bigger picture I'm trying to frame this in, or your experience and how that relates to this dragnet continuing at this point?
Muted.
Right, Adam. It is a dragnet. I always do that. I always mute myself. I have a fan going off here, the heater. So, anyways, yeah, no, it's pretty disappointing that, to me, especially being the producer of this show, where our host is literally the spokesman for nonviolent solutions to government problems. And, being in the media, and we've been presenting ourselves this way and having gone there, not in support of the Orange Messiah, the Cheeto Jesus, the Bone Spurs captain, like all the little colorful names that you can come up for with Trump. We're just there to make sure that we can document and to make sure that our video footage can exonerate those that need to be exonerated and can help convict those that do commit violence and against otherwise peaceful people. And in this case, the state used a lot of violence against what were peaceful people until they had, like, it's like with Stephen McClure. If you punch me in the face, I'm not a pacifist. I'm not a pacifist libertarian, and I think there's a lot of people that maybe have been radicalized against the government having experienced that, to where they might be more in tune to say, yeah, this is a government that wants to go. If they didn't believe it before, they certainly do believe that whatever's in that building now shouldn't be there. And I heard people say they were going to drag out everything, not just the people. Everything was going to get gutted. Like the whole building was going to get gutted. This is what I was hearing on the ground. Like they're going to pull every person, every chair, every desk, and the whole thing's going to get emptied out. And I was like, I mean, it sounds crazy when you see how they're doing it. The picture in the still here, they were marching in flags and flagpoles just like this. And and I call it the weapons of the Second American Revolution. The things that we saw getting pulled in and out of that building and coming in and out of that hole right there have traumatized my eyeballs and my brain thoughts for the rest of my existence. I had to go right up to this door that you see right here just to look to see if Cash's body was in that herd of massive people. Because Cash, he likes to go to the front of things. And so looking for him, trying to make sure we don't get him out. I mean, you can see people's bodies pressed up against the railings. I mean, it is people on top of people. And so, were a lot of them Trump supporters? Yes. But can you conclusively tell me that everybody on that side of the building was all Trump supporters? No. We got video footage for days of people throwing things and I mean, doing things on both sides that you would never imagine civilized society doing. And so, I mean, yeah, that's my experience, honestly.
Well, CJ, we're going to come back to the arrests and the FBI and the ongoing investigations here. But first, I can't give up the chance to see a huge silver lining, the positive potential here in the opportunity that this represents. And I've always said, as bad as Trump himself is, I can still celebrate him as a destabilizing force, right? As a sign of the times. And it might be, hey, we had a reality show president, it didn't go well, better trust professional politicians from now on, might have that whiplash effect. But this is one of the destabilizing effects, dynamics that we can celebrate and recognize and capitalize on, which is that there are a huge number of Trump supporters who are now disaffected with the duopoly entirely. They thought Trump was different. And I kind of want to give them this one more chance. Like they're holding out for March 4th. And this is where the Democrats screwed up, like with impeaching him now. Maybe they've got some other strategy in mind. It's going to be more destabilizing than anything. But that they're keeping Trump relevant. Trump supporters are now, well, March 4th. Something's going to happen on March 4th. Our friend in the producers club, I think she wants to remain anonymous, uh, uh, shared one link that the Trump Hotel in DC is jacking their prices up for March 4th. But do you see an opportunity? Is that what's exciting to you about this, CJ? That people are being shaken loose from their confidence in the duopoly, right?
Well, how many times, Adam, have you said the collapsitarian in me? And so, having had been there and witnessed this, I'm like, yeah, this is what it will look like when and if it ever gets to the tipping point of collapse. I mean, the house of cards the government has built itself, it'll fall. But what scares me the most is that the people inside that building, the ones that think they're justified and have a right to be there, or that they were actually elected and not just installed, by a rigged system, and they can't. And that's where I think a lot of people don't realize that we don't know right now what truly is our representative government, if we actually have one or not. I mean, at least of the people, like your average working class American. I mean, we are treated no differently than chattel. Like, there's many evidences to prove this. And so at some point, there becomes a critical mass of people, regardless of who they attach to a figurehead of it, right? Trump is just a vessel, a vehicle, a means to an end in the pushing of that system. I don't care if Donald Trump is elected by the Republicans again. I don't care if he's beaten by a Democrat again. The libertarian in me goes, I'm already on the side of the Libertarian Party. I'm already into thinking about outside political opinion, different from mainstream. I don't need to look at something like Q and go, they're right, because they're proven wrong a lot of the time. I mean, they've got their people thinking that Joe Biden isn't the president, and they've got a million signs like he wasn't riding on the right Air Force One plane. He's signing blank documents in the White House. It's all a set. It's fake. It's not real. And Trump is going to be back in on the 4th. And you go, slow down there, bucko. You were all the same people that said Hillary Clinton was going to be in jail by now. And I just saw her. I smoked cannabis where the president gets sworn in for office on the 6th, okay? I'm proud of that moment because we are different people. And at the end of the day, the things that I saw on that day, yeah, some of them were Trump supporters. Not everyone there was a Trump supporter. If you're saying that, you're stupid. And I'll go to my grave thinking everybody that's turned this into some kind of insurrection story is just a bunch of idiots. You're all falling for government propaganda. And that's my opinion. I was there. I listened to people say, I didn't vote for Trump either. Well, why are you over here? I just think these fuckers got to go.
And if I may, before I forget, a sidebar about the journalistic part of this, and I hope that our audience can respect a little more now hearing from CJ why he was there and why he covered that and why we have dedicated a lot of the show since January 6th.
Well, I could be arrested. I might be a domestic terrorist for showing up there. They're going to try to get my bank information to see what hotel I paid for and where I got my sandwich that day.
The reason is this represents a fissure in the system of evil that dominates America today. And by calling attention to it, we increase the relevance, the significance, and the actual size of that fissure by simply showing people here is a destabilizing event and a point. And I could jump, I mean, for my audience, CJ, we can jump ahead to, and that's why we need to dissolve the federal government and localize down to the voluntary community level. And they go, yeah. Well, then the bigger question is, how do we capitalize on this as an opportunity to show people that, right? So, Jim, do you have any thoughts on this? I haven't been seeing any comments. Are people like not? This has got to be stimulating something for people, right?
Well, yeah. There's a sort of a debate going on right now. There's a Jeremy Jeremy Yoyer and what's the other one? He just changed his name. You've been T-rolled. They're talking about basically Black Lives Matter versus.
Right. So in this Black Lives Matter statement, your support for BLM proves you're anti-property or private property.
Me or someone else in the comments? I mean, I don't really care. It's fucking stupid.
I don't care if BLM wants to go purchase some property and set up a commune for all I care.
And I've been as critical of BLM at the organizational level and at the movement level and at the culture level, and still said, and from my personal experience, man, like I've been personally harassed with my mom and a date. I was going to a movie with my mom and a date. I'm that kind of mama's boy, right? In Seattle, and got confronted, harassed. I mean, I don't want to complain about it, but there's a video of this with BLM activists there. And I still say, when it comes to the core of the movement, pointing out that the system operates in many ways like Black Lives Don't Matter. Yeah, I'm a supporter, and I'm not gonna back off that and allow my support of a cause to be determined by some guilt by association standard expectation because other people believe in that cause. So no, and there are plenty of people in the BLM movement who are confused about private property and bigger political ideology and are literally just out there going to protests, putting up signs because they go, yeah, the system looks like or operates as if Black Lives Don't Matter, and I want that addressed. And that's
I make the argument that it operates under nobody it matters, and unless you're in the elite ruling class and have done all of the things that are required of you, to get into that class. So at the end of the day, we're talking about a class system where when a small section of the slave population steps up, it's kind of like the story about the 10 monkeys in a cage, and there's a ladder in the middle, and at the top of the ladder is bananas, and every time that somebody goes up to get to the bananas, they all get shocked. So they essentially beat each other continuously until to where getting bananas is a punishable thing.
There's also a crabs in the bucket mentality that I've noticed.
Frogs in the pot.
Well, no. Crabs in a bucket. No. Crabs in a bucket is a different phenomena, and it's where if you put crabs in a bucket that they could even climb out of, you don't have to put a lid on it because they will, as one tries to climb out, the others will just pull them back down. Mm-hmm. And it's like, wow, it's just this weird, like, because they have such a simple brain, that's how they operate, and it creates this really toxic dynamic where they could all get out of the bucket or help each other get out of the bucket, and instead they just sit in the bucket. And if you put crabs in a bucket, they just stay in a bucket. And with independent media, even libertarian media, where people fight each other and there's bullshit drama, you can see, like, anybody gets prominent, people try to pull them back down. In the activism community, there's a kind of more in the left, there's a resentment of success, but this might be like society wide at this point. That in a way there's a culture of crabs in a bucket that resents any kind of success. That is motivating a drive to a more egalitarian sort of socialist economy. Mm-hmm. Political reality. Anyway, sorry, I don't want to get too far off on that sidebar. So CJ, well, Jim, if you have, and I didn't see if you want to put any of those comments back up to be read into the record, but I want to get back to this FBI dragnet, and CJ, if you want to share briefly your involvement. And I'm pleasantly surprised to hear you're ready to get into all this now, that you're not too concerned about your own legal sensitivities. But what do you think of the FBI now? Still pursuing this and looking at charges of sedition and people for a political protest that escalated to breaking and entering, except for the people that were violent with officers in particular, which was only a handful, right? They're facing 20 years. So, crazy.
Yeah, 20 years, man. That's a lifetime in a lot of people's minds, right? Yeah. That's locking people up for generations. because of the actions of one day in a couple span of hours, and something that again, what really bothers me is first and foremost that the government let them in on the east side of the building. We know this; it's been documented. We have the evidence for the rest of history to show that they let them in on one side of the building.
For the record, CJ, let me just say I don't have a problem with someone who physically assaulted someone in a way that contributed to their death doing 20 years. Like, yeah, maybe that's not the right thing. That's not justice, but in the scale of our system, like for those people, that's fine. For serious assault, but that's not who we're talking. How many people do you think were guilty of like an actual
violent act,
assault that day?
You know what? With the amount of people that were there, and I don't want to put like a percentage on it, but I would say that there was a tiny fraction of the people there that were actually violent.
Can you give us a number? Like, was it
less than 1%? Less than 1%. Less than
1% of 10,000
of anybody that was within. Like, think about it like this: there wasn't enough. Once it got to the point of critical mass of people at that door, people were just waiting in line. Like it was their turn to go in at some point. Like, I'll get in there at some point. When I get in there, I'm going to take this, or I'm going after this person's office. Like, yeah, like, I mean, I want a lamp. And there were people that wanted souvenirs. They did, because they believe, and they honestly do believe, that they're taxpayer dollars and that they might have paid for that stapler.
Yeah.
They might have paid for that pen on Nancy Pelosi's desk.
Not might have, they did.
Okay, but again, let's be distributed amongst the crowd. Let the crowd figure it out.
I didn't say they have rights to claim ownership over it. I'm just saying they did actually physically.
They did actually. So they might have a claim to it. Okay, so they have a claim to it. But again, my point being though that everybody that was in there had to withstand, at the front at least, had to withstand the gas, the beatings, the indiscriminatory fire of riot weapons. I mean, and to make it to that door, I mean, the police had to have had known, because of their actions, that they were going to get overran. They had to have.
Yeah, by the way, there should be way more cops facing 15 to 20 years than protesters.
Thank you. That wasn't clear. Yes, and that's the point. And so they were bait. It was bait, because there was that line that the government can say, here's this artificial line, and if you go past here, we can escalate the rules of engagement. And if you go past here, we can escalate the rules of engagement. And so if you think that it's an actual insurrection, no, it didn't get past that door on the west side. It was a riot. I'll give it that. It was a riot. We filmed a riot.
A protest that escalated into a riot in a way that was manipulated.
And here's the real question, Adam, is who actually started it? The reason why we coined the phrase false flag insurrection is because they actually used a flag to symbol the big push. They used the Betsy Ross flag. We have it captured on film for the rest of history. We even turned it into a coffee mug of the moment that it went from protest to absolute blown out riot. And it was when a woman was tackled by a male law enforcement officer, and the flag hit the ground, and everybody just started pushing immediately right after that. That was the moment the cops lost. Now, they were kicking flags on the ground. Not that I'm a Magic Skycloth worshiper, but I'm going to bet that if your grandpappy's grandpappy was buried under that flag, you have a little sentiment attached to it. And so they were triggering. It was intentionally done. The stage was set. And I will say this, because it needs to be said, the same way that they filmed the inauguration, the same way that you could watch Lady Gaga get zoomed in on from a mile away and see her pores, the whites of her, or the blacks of her eyeballs, that same quality is the same way they recorded all that. And so to think that the government didn't know this was coming, to me, it's like the government's charging people for falling into the trap that the government themselves set, so that they could then play the victim and pass laws that make anybody that they don't like, that challenges their authority, blanketed as a terrorist.
CJ, I just want to conclude the talk about the physical reality of the event by pointing out that And backing up your whole statement there, that like the more you dig into it, the more you just reinforce it. But there's a really fundamental, irrefutable truth that leads you to understand that there was an element of let it happen on purpose, because this is the federal government of the United fucking States of America. You have how many millions of dollars to secure this building? You don't have a plan for barricading the doors against an angry mob? Are you kidding? Bullshit. Bullshit. At very least, to barricade all the doors with officers with 6-foot metal shields and just pump out gas until the people go away. Like you have a way. They had the. It's sort of like, who's the one really responsible here and who has the resources. It's sort of like who's the adult and who's the child. It's sort of, I hate to sound like in reinforcing the bullshit paradigm of government being a parent, but in a way it's like, no, you were the one responsible for what happened that day. Whoever set that up, whoever created that security posture, whoever dictated the terms of engagement that day, ultimately the blood's on their hands, not the people who showed up, not the protesters.
Adam, they were directing it. They were directing it. It was all like, all right, we're at critical mass. Go for it. Team Alpha 1. I mean, however you want to say, they were communicating in their channels to say, hey, and they were, and you know what? And as I go back, because it's on my devices, I can go back and watch the footage. As you watch the police retreat, they were allowed to retreat. I mean, even when they dragged out one of the law enforcement officers from that west side entrance, then they dragged out a few. They were dragged back, and there were people saying, let him go. And so they drugged these people, these cops, all the way around to the steps and gave them back to law enforcement officers. I mean, and so no law enforcement officer outside was harmed past what you could be expecting to feel from them at the front. Like, yeah, they might have got manhandled a little bit through the crowd, but people were getting manhandled in the front by cops. So they didn't die. And no cop was killed outside by a stomping, angry mob. But again, those cops should be upset that they were used as human shields.
That's going to be interesting to see if some whistleblowers come out around this, because
if there's not, then they're not really American. I mean, I'm going to put that card out on there.
There were two that came out, actually. They committed suicide. Excuse me.
Yeah. I mean,
and you can't forget, that's a strange wrinkle in this story. You can't ignore two of the officers. And I think I picked this apart sufficiently when we covered it last week, that this is not the kind of experience that drives you to suicide, and not immediately like this. No way. Either there was something way else than
I don't know,
way more significant.
If it was the cop that shot Ashley Babbitt, Adam, if it was the cop that shot Ashley Babbitt, and he just said, you know what, I mean, again, who was it? We don't know. And the thing is that we most likely won't know for even within our lifetimes, Adam. They might lock away the stories of that day as far as they can.
So one officer committing suicide because he shot Ashley Babbitt and feels like he was set up and regretted it.
If that was the cop.
He couldn't live with it, and there was so much public heat, and he was going to have to live in secrecy for the rest of his life, and his family would be at risk if he ever lived with his family, and he just said, okay, I'm out of here. Okay. That may be, one. But two, and even then, if it is organic, if those are like legitimate suicides, again, it would just point to the fact that there's way more to come out from the law enforcement side on this. All right, super chat. First domino, $10. Keep up the great work. All right, CJ, back to the Guardian story here that is really covering the FBI dragnet. Is there anything else that you want to cover in this before we get to the next?
Again, as we go through like the pictures here, these are all people that were there for one reason or another, and you cannot tell me everyone gets a blanket reason, or that everybody on each side is actually who they say they are.
Yeah.
You can't tell me where Waldo is in this picture. And I think that this is the ultimate example of what I'm going to call the greatest jury nullification in the history of the United States. As again, is who's going to convict who of a jury of their peers in this? Honestly, I mean, this was something that has never been seen before in this nation's history.
You know,
this was a historic event.
Yeah. No, CJ, you point out something that I think I haven't heard yet, but if the FBI is has arrested now hundreds of people and is using some legal trick, whatever, to deny them bail or bond, as the case may be.
Yeah, they're charging them under like espionage or sedition laws. They're charging them under sedition laws.
Remember, this all works by assuming that they're all going to take a plea at some point, and they're not. I would bet, just with the kind of crazy and committed and passionate people they've got in this dragnet, there are going to be a handful that will resist all the way through public trial and say, fuck it, I put my life on the line for this, roll the dice.
Because they know that it's going to be very publicized. They know that it's going to be, that helps their case, that helps their chances.
And a lot of them are only facing something in the range of, 5 to 12. They're coming after them with the full weight of federal law enforcement.
I mean, they're actually kind of doing them a favor.
Some of them are facing as little as 5 years, as I understand it. Some up to 20, and some I would assume more with compound charges and things like that. I'm not
going to lie to you guys. If that mass of people would have pushed me into that building, I mean, I think the phone call with the FBI, I think that's where they drew the line. I think that's where the actual arrest line was drawn. And then even on the inside, they're only arresting those that they can conclusively, with video evidence, prove you were there with violent means, violent ends. And in which case, if you can show me in a jury trial where somebody murdered somebody in the crowd on either side, I'm open to hearing that they did something that was violent and out of order, and in a sense, in that case, creating a victim where they didn't have to otherwise be one. So, if there is a victim, there is a crime.
Like I say, if I didn't have kids, or was about to, like I am, and it was roll the dice on 5 years for the chance of a show trial for this. Oh yeah. And to do 5 years, what does that really mean? 3.5 with good behavior, right? And you get sentenced and you go to a federal low security facility, and people were going to send you tons of money.
Yeah, the book deal you're going to get when you come out of that, Adam.
Yeah, you're a minor celebrity in jail, at least the kind that inmates respect. You're not going to get messed with because you're high profile. Just for that, I've been in jail in that situation where.
What are you in for? Well, I put my feet up on Nancy Pelosi's desk is a great excuse. But hey, but here's the thing: if you go and you're, why you in the federal pen? Because you murdered somebody at the Capitol riot that day. I will call it a riot. I will not let you call it an insurrection. But
unless you say false flag insurrection.
Unless you say false flag insurrection, correct? Yes, sir. But again, so. My point being that if you're going to call it what it is, that's fine. But if you killed somebody in the riot, then that you created a victim. And
yes.
And unless your life was in imminent harm, like the person that you killed was about to kill you, I mean, this is why I take Cash's approach on this and say, why would they shut down streaming? Why would they make it harder for you to record what happens if what you can record can help exonerate yourself and others? Because then they can't control the narrative. If you have exonerating footage from people that they're trying to persecute, I mean, that's what I'm saying. The footage of being there that day is going to age like the finest of wines. And that's why you do see, seriously, this is why you see video footage and angles as they're getting closer to the front line, because it's kind of like buying stumps, like you want to keep your footage all raw and pure, but then other people sell it out and they won't hold the line. And so they get the quick buck in the beginning.
CJ, there's a huge opening here. I hope you take it. to produce a 1-hour narrative documentary of what happened on January 6th.
Well, Cash wants me to do that, and I wouldn't say I'd narrate it, but I think I could get a group of people to work on something like that.
Well, a 1-hour telling of the story, and I think using your experience as the focal point by which to tell the story of the whole thing and the significance of it. There's a huge that's what there's the need for. There's an opening for that. But anyway, let me get to the next headline here. This is CBS Pittsburgh. FBI raids home of Rachel Powell, Mercer County mother of 8 suspected in Capitol attack. Powell has become known as the lady with the bullhorns, seeming to have knowledge of the Capitol building's floor plan, instructing insurrectionists where to go. The FBI raided the home of Rachel Powell, a Mercer County mother of 8 suspected of playing a role in the assault on the U.S. Capitol. Agents swarmed the vacant house Thursday, searching for any evidence to help build a case against Powell and any clues that may indicate where she may have gone. Neighbors say Powell and some of the other children have not been seen for a week or more and are apparently hiding in an unknown location. Until Thursday, the FBI has declined to even call Powell a suspect and is now offering only a short statement indicating they secured a search warrant for the raid on the house and they're looking for her. So, CJ, obviously, typical law enforcement, heavy-handedness, sympathetic headline to a mother of 8. But what do you think specifically of the culpability, of Rachel Powell and others who, might have had a specific active role? And, what are their real allegiances if you don't think they represent the bigger crowd outside?
Well, again, Cash has already told you guys my story of the window incident, where some guy starts smashing the window in with a hammer, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna record you doing it, because at that point, and he basically put it like this: it was easy to spot those who wanted to be that next level of violent, or that next level of breaking down that next barrier. And some people honestly did view the windows as a way to get in. And as a result, people did get in the windows. Again, admittedly, after they had already let people in on the east side. Okay? So you could kind of tell, like, we were seeing video footage and pictures while in that crowd of officers on the other end of guns ready to shoot if that window breaks. Which is why I had already seen that at that point. Now I'm sitting here going like, okay, I'm going to record, because they're going to start shooting people, like, right at that line. Like, there's a reason why that's bulletproof glass, and it's going to take some work for you to beat the shit out of it. So I'm going to watch you work, and I'm going to hit this record button, and if you break that window, they might shoot you. And so, yeah, like, we deterred a few people from actually breaking the windows, trying to get in that way. And
well, CJ, I hope next time you're doing this with a drone.
I hope next time I'm in that, I have like all the armor that I want an Iron Man suit.
They're not gonna let you fly a drone anywhere near the Capitol.
No, I want an Iron Man suit. I just watched Iron Man last night. I want nanotech armor. Oh man, you couldn't. I don't know if you could pay me enough to walk in there. And that's another thing. If there are people like me who are like, well, I'm in this arena of media. I want to get some great footage for the show that I work for, or the network that I'm on, for the people that I'm with. And yeah, I think I like our last guest that we have, the comedian. What's her name? I keep
Chrissy Mayer.
Chrissy Mayer, yes. Like we have. Sorry, Chrissy. I'm horrible with names, but she felt like this is an opportunity to go be a part of the history and film it from a non-violent standpoint. She knew she was going there not to be violent and go up and beat police and take shields and get doused in chemicals just to get doused in chemicals. No, she went there to get footage that day, as many did. So can they convict all of them there? No. Will they try to convict somebody if they have conclusive evidence of them doing violence? Yeah, I think so. I think I mean, even the libertarians are going to be like, as long as it's on both sides, yeah, we just want justice on both sides. If somebody committed violence, it's not justified. And yeah, so I don't know again, but I think they have orders on the inside to shoot to kill. And so we got to discuss that too, because
all right. Perfect transition. Perfect segue to the next headline, right? I just want to set you up to continue your point here. JustTheNews.com, growing evidence Capitol attack was pre-planned, undercuts Trump impeachment premise. Emerging evidence also raises questions about whether the FBI and other security agencies acted proactively enough to thwart the violence. So the first question here, or the first element of this, is that Trump is being impeached for inciting. And if it's proven that this was planned before what they're accusing him of doing happened on the day of as inciting, unless they can say that he was responsible also for some pre-planning, then if it's pre-planned, he can't be responsible for incitement. I mean, who knows how that actually plays out. But the other one, emerging evidence also raises questions about whether the FBI and other security agencies acted proactively enough to thwart the violence. That's going to become undeniable and obvious if a sort of normal law enforcement accountability investigation is allowed to play out. So, I mean, a couple things I want to ask you to cover, CJ. How much of this is pre-planned? How much of this is going to come out? But then also, what are the implications for the impeachment?
Well, first and foremost, with the impeachment, they don't have enough votes to impeach Donald Trump. It's a show trial. It's one more dog and pony show to try to crucify the former president. It is. I'm not going to call it what it's not. It's Democrats getting their revenge, their version of justice.
Well, in that case, it'll be, well, no, they want to say, they want this is like then one of those things that is put in a legislative body for political purposes of, we know this is going to fail, but we want you to have to vote against this on the record so we can use it against you politically and say, look, you were a party loyalist. You defended Trump. You voted even when it was irrelevant. You voted.
But isn't every vote though?
Figurehead.
Isn't every vote though? Don't they treat like? Isn't it funny how 10 Republicans are like, yeah, 10 Republicans go, okay, well, we're going to turn on. We're not party loyalists. We're not Trump loyalists, which they already knew existed to begin with. Your Mitt Romneys, the Republicans that they like to call the rhinos. Even Mike Pence is now accused of being a rhino. I mean, at the end of the day, these are the Republicans that will line up with the Democrats and will vote to impeach Trump. And we've already seen those people get crucified in their circles and then rewarded. They go from I like Trump to I hate Trump is going from Fox News to CNN. I mean, to them it's about their bottom line. Look at John Kerry. The man he wanted to be president. Now he's flying around in a private jet, talking about climate change. Like he's living the dream. I mean, this is all something that they all can benefit from financially. In the not only the ratings of it, but the name progression of it, their own stonks in their own name. But
right,
yeah.
So CJ, I want to this pre-planned element of this. So I kind of want to cover this first from your understanding of the event. One story that we didn't get to last week, it came out that the $520,000 in Bitcoin that was transferred, about half to Nick Fuentes and the rest of several other conservative or extreme Trump supporters who were there on January 6th, came from a French programmer / professional troll who committed suicide shortly thereafter. And obviously some of that money went to this. What do you understand about how that money might have been spent, aside from getting Nick Fuentes there in style and with a nice new bullhorn? And how does that relate? Does that take heat off of Trump?
I don't care what anybody says. The goal is ultimately to crucify Trump and to exonerate the state. All right. So, the state wants to pretend they're the victims. And so they will use any name with the clout to, and in this case, it is Trump. He's the figurehead of the Republican Party. They elected him. And so he will be the one they try to crucify. And what's sad is that as it gets further down the chain, it's more like you'll see like this mom who was just there, who probably had never been tear gassed before and probably got pretty pissed off. And who knows, maybe she just started breaking windows because she had a legitimate complaint against state. Maybe the state was responsible in the death of one of her family members, and beating that window was her way of saying, fuck the state. I'm not judging anybody that was there as long as the only thing that you weren't doing, if you didn't harm another human being, I'm not crucifying nobody.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, is it a crime to bash the windows in at the Capitol? Prior to 2021, I'd be like, yeah, probably a crime in their world. But after 2021, I'm like, if the government deserves it and the people can actually make it to those windows, I think the government's got it coming.
No, so property destruction is still generally, well, an ethical violation. But if it's
again, the state wants to. That's how I tried the state.
If it's necessary to make a statement, even to attempt to stop a crime of not just a far greater magnitude, but scale and scope, to destroy symbolically property, may be entirely appropriate, even in mere protest, when you weigh out the cost benefit there. And the thing is, it shouldn't. You think about Gandhi or MLK, right? The icons of civil disobedience and nonviolent resistance. It's like, what can you do that is truly symbolic and de-escalating? And this wasn't it. Like, it'd be more symbolic to, on your own, walk up to the it would have been more appropriate for me to walk up to the windows and break it with a crowbar and to say, go buy my book, thefreedomline.com, than to be part of a mob that's threatening, that when they're destroying the property, they are implicitly in all of this threatening violence against the people defending it and the cops, and that there was real violence involved. At least, even if you don't want to say that invalidates it, it's dumb tactically, because it's escalatory. It's increasing confrontation, when anything in the real interest of freedom has to be ultimately de-escalating.
I blame the state, Adam. I don't blame the individual that was there in peaceful protest that got punched in the face and said, "Oh, no." And this always has been my question. At least my thought process is the state has already violated the non-aggression principle through the laws that they enact and the permission that they give their enforcement class to use against the slaves, the lower class.
I don't disagree with your analysis, but I do kind of disagree with the premise of blame and fault, because if you want to blame government,
you're saying my blame of government's incorrect.
Well, when you anthropomorphize it into a monolith as a singular institution, in one sense, yes, that is, but also that you disregard the responsibility of we the people who are complicit, for everybody who voluntarily goes along. And I don't think that, I believe in responsibility for your actions in an absolute libertarian sense, but there's a collective responsibility that needs to be acknowledged. And also, that the blame game, even in this, is not helpful.
And, no. You've always said you can always blame the government.
Yeah, I know. You can, but as an institution, I still want to point out, it's the trigger pullers, it's the policy setters, it's the act of conscious criminality that is responsible. But CJ, back to the story about this. What is the opportunity then, or I should say, to conclude this segment? What is the opportunity then for us as a movement, or for us just as compassionate human beings, to capitalize on this, to increase awareness and wokeness by our definition, or to just encourage people to see the bigger lessons that to us are kind of obvious in all of this?
Right. I think the troll in the comments section there, who've been trolling there, says it right here. America has the government it deserves, and I've always said the choice is always yours. If you're holding the Trump flag and you're dragging it in to the Capitol building here from our first story, and you're conducting violence, and you're using a violent means to get into what you call the people's house. I mean, is it being defended by the slave enforcement class? Absolutely. So are they using violence against you? Yeah, absolutely. They've been authorized to by you because you voted for this.
Right.
So it's like you're. This is where I always felt like it was stupid that these are again. I would say again mostly Trump supporters. I think there's what actually started it was an outside element that just kind of lit the gas. Like we're saying the gas and all the tinder was put together, and we're trying to find out who lit the flame. It's like the shot heard around the world. Nobody's gonna know who fired it. Nobody's gonna know what exact moment, but I believe we have one that may be it. One moment that escalated it beyond a doubt that this was going to go to a riot. And but then once that riot had already started, like I said, there were people that they're going to say they conducted violence because the state conducted violence against them. And in which case, that's the conundrum I've been asking. I've been saying the state already has violated the non-aggression principle through the laws they enact and enforce. What do you expect the people to do?
Right. So, CJ, I would just encourage us to be asking this question not of what is ethically justified, but what is smart tactically and what gets us to our goals more efficiently. And I would make the analogy that if you have someone charging at you with a knife, as we have a story here today, actually in our grab bag, I hope we get to it, where it was a YouTuber for a prank robbery threatening someone with knives in Tennessee, I think. Guy pulled a gun on him and shot him dead, just like that. Was it justified? Yeah, the guy's threatening your life. You were justified in using deadly force to defend yourself. Would it have been better to use pepper spray? If you have a gun and pepper spray, and you are 99% certain that the pepper spray will be just as, if not more effective than the gun, because you can miss with the pepper spray and still disable your attacker, right? Which is smarter?
I would just prefer that we had first off, no government at all. All right. That I think is no secret. I'm all about no government. And if it is government, it's voluntary and local. That's right. It. I don't consent to the state of South Dakota. Like, I don't consent to the federal government. I'll consent to my local community here. And where it says most local is my own home. And I hope I have a constitutional sheriff, to clear myself here before anybody goes, CJ should be arrested and put him on the guillotine. I had already been cleared by the FBI. They called, they knew that we were there. My sheriff made the phone call with 2 agents on the phone.
And now they have a file on you this thick that includes every single thing you did that day and all the data and surveillance and testimony.
I honestly,
you were a journalist and did this and this and this and this, and here are the files.
And at the end of the day, what do you expect? But again, when the FBI tells your county sheriff that you did nothing wrong and that they agree you did nothing wrong, that's a good. I take credit for that. Because I'm trying to show that in media, even the FBI is like, okay, well, there are people that got up to that door that we're not going to charge because they were legitimately media. It is a mass of people. And when the crowd did disperse, they did leave peacefully.
Yes, this game has some weird rules.
All right. It's kind of like a weird game of chess. Like I keep saying, like, all right, this is my one square right now while I'm trying to recover from the tear gas. Okay, I got to go over here now. Oh, I got to climb up this right now. My buddy might be over there. I can't leave alone. Like the Marine Corps taught me, never leave a man behind. And you're not just going to walk into a riot and not think I'm going to go follow you. So, at the end of the day, and I will say this, if you are not used to gas, like you've been to the gas chamber at boot camp, Adam, and Jim, did they ever do CS gas in the Army?
Oh yeah,
so we all know what it tastes like, and it's kind of ironic that you taste it again that day and then you go, wait a minute, I mean, I know the techniques to kind of survive a little bit. Don't get me wrong, at some point you're going to breathe it in, you're going to have episodes, you're going to be flashing, I took direct shots and I was pressed. I wasn't doing anything violent. I mean, this hat, it was covered. I used to be able to smell this hat and smell the gas. It's now faded. Maybe it's a sign that we need to go fight for our freedom again. I don't know. But, I'll record it. I'm not going to fight. But I do think there is a fight for freedom. I think there's people that would love to ban this word right here and make it so that nobody can ever talk about it and that the word can be replaced with something more permissive like liberty. Liberty is more permissive from government, which is why I find it to be a step below freedom.
Yeah. Yeah, liberty is, by most dictionary definitions, liberty as opposed to liberty speaks to political permission or privilege,
Right.
whereas
So
freedom
I'm
is
all
a
about
simpler
freedom.
absolute principle. Well,
But
hold
don't
on.
get me wrong,
Let's
I
check in
love the
with
Liberty
Jim,
guys,
and then
though.
let's check in with Jim so we can get to the South Dakota story. Well, before we, no, CJ, not
No,
yet.
I was going to be right back.
But Jim, comments on any of that? I know there's got to be something. That was a lot of fun. All right.
Crypto Garden says 40 chess and their rules only apply to you. CJ,
Yeah.
I don't know why CJ went off stage. Everybody's talking about that. I agree with Domino, who agrees with you about the mace. About the yes, you might be justified in doing something, but is it the smartest opportunity? Is it going to give us the best outcome? Oh,
Yeah.
CJ said, "You want to go?"
No, I had to go
I
to the bathroom. Guy can't even go to the bathroom on this show.
All right, keep going. Oh, geez, devil, you can't hold your piss for 2 hours. All
I'm
right,
drinking this whole coffee this whole time. Just shut myself up.
I have a bottle under the desk. All right, so Jim, anything else on January 6th and impeachment and all that before we get to the South Dakota Attorney General?
I don't think anything specific on the 6th. No, let's do it.
All right, so Daily Beast via Yahoo. The South Dakota Attorney General killed a man. Everything else is a mystery by Tom Lawrence on a remote section of highway in a sparsely populated part of South Dakota. The state's highest ranking law enforcement official struck and killed a man while returning from a Republican Party dinner one night in late summer. You know, there's a great just layer of I don't want to say irony, but great coincidence to that he's coming, or appropriateness that it's where's he coming from? Republican Party dinner, getting smoke blown up his butt, feeling really good about himself, feeling the power. In the months since, Attorney General Jason Ravensborg hasn't missed a day of work and has not faced any charge in connection with the death of Joe Bover. And many South Dakotans are growing restless, including Bover's family. Markers indicating a death went up at the crash site on Highway 14 in Hyde County last week. A grim reminder of the tragedy that had cousin Nick Nemec in tears, as he told the Daily Beast during a video call, quote, "I'm very disappointed. Next week will mark 5 months since the crash. I've prepared myself mentally for some sort of guilty plea to a minor traffic violation on the order of crossing the white line." Now, here we go. Governor Kristi Noem, like Ravensborg, a Republican elected in 2018, has also questioned why it's taking so long for the investigation to conclude. As she said on January 21st, "We continue to call it a great disservice to the victim's family. I'm disappointed that we haven't seen some action taken by the state's attorney involved and hope certainly that they soon will." All right, CJ, what's the story behind the story on this one?
Oh man. So again, I always start this story with there is a man dead in this who is a victim. And in this case, the state's attorney did conclusively, I think by all reports and standards, was distracted at the time. Now, for those that don't know, Jason is a veteran himself. I do believe is entitled to full due process in this. I do believe that this should still be an ongoing case where a grand jury is convened because there is a victim. And, at the end of the day, it's been 5 months, and even the governor, the queen of meth herself, Governor Kristi Noem, she has remained what she would like to believe is neutral at this point. I think that she hasn't been neutral in the fact that she's still letting him do his job and convicting people. And, we had a case in Sioux Falls where somebody was not convicted for hitting somebody with a car, which is going to show like, well, they can't convict that person because the defense is, well, you haven't convicted the attorney general yet.
So for people, if I may, CJ, to interrupt to share something about the actual physicality of the story. He was driving. The 911 call from Ravensborg was released a month later, and he actually said, "This is great. Like, I have to laugh at how obnoxious this is." and the arrogance reflected here. Quote, this, well, Ali, I'm the attorney general, and I don't know, I hit something.
Yeah, the dispatcher actually says, so you think you hit a deer? And he just kind of went with it.
And he says that he hit something in the middle of the road. South Dakota Highway Patrol report states that Ravensborg's car was actually on the north shoulder when he struck Bover.
Yeah.
And that's the difference between not preventing an accident and negligent homicide.
Yeah, as you can see, Nick Nemec in red and his brother Victor at the site where their cousin Joe Bover was struck and killed by the South Dakota Attorney General Jason Ravensburg, on September 12th. And does that look like the middle of the road to you?
No.
Okay, so just as the audience ombudsman here, no, they're well into the off the shoulder, an appropriate spot where anybody would be walking on the side of the road, and where where a driver anywhere within a line of sight of this is actually paying attention to the road and not distracted could see. And tragically, Adam, in this story, he even had a flashlight with him, and it gets pretty crazy the more facts that we uncover with this story, and the fact that that Jason didn't resign is the big issue here with me. I mean, it's the biggest one.
There's one other even more condemning element to this. Because of the way Attorney General Ravensborg handled this, Bover's body was on the side of the road for approximately 10 hours.
Yeah, who knows when he actually died? And how, and again, at the end of the day, we know it was from injuries due to getting hit by a vehicle. Right, and that's a very painful way to go. But here's the next tragedy, Adam. He was where when he left? He left the bar, a dinner, and guess when they did the toxicology report and the piss test on him?
Never.
The next day, well after all alcohol would have left his system.
Of course. No, but the other scary element is this may be an incident where if he had called 911 right away and gotten help to the scene, he might have lived. And what's so tragic here is that the drunk arrogance of him knowing that what he could, or thinking what he could get away with.
Again, drunk is we can't conclusively say, which is where he's hinging on his defense.
That he might have he could have been lying there simply unable to reach his cell phone in his pocket because his body was mangled and bled out in excruciating pain for hours. What was that comment on screen there?
I don't know. We seem to have somebody who's making unintelligent thoughts come across my screen here.
Vehicular manslaughter is what we would serve 20 years for.
Oh, so the slaves class serves 20 years for vehicular manslaughter. The ruling class, we've had a governor actually do a hit and run like this back, I guess, in like the 80s, 90s or something like that. I wasn't living in South Dakota at that time, but apparently there was a governor that killed somebody with a vehicle and basically got away with that too. So, I think, and I've said this from the beginning, they're going to let him be innocent by time. That's their goal here, that there's enough junk in the mainstream of news that the attorney general will get away with this just based off of a plea deal and just to settle it with the state, kind of like penny shopping, but for plea deals.
All right, CJ. Anything else before we move on? Because we're going to do a COVID block. We're going to do an econ block and probably have to save our grab bag or the rest of our grab bag for tomorrow. But I would remind the audience, I think our leading bid for the Producers Club today in Super Chats is 10 euros. I don't know how much that is in real monies, but try beating 10 euros in our Super Chat. And the euro still, I don't follow internet. I'm not even going to say. Or top comment. I don't know what Jim's favorite comment is, but there are going to be plenty around this COVID block. So CJ, let it rip. This is not medical advice. One of the top discussed stories this week about COVID is based on a study about when life will return to normal. FinancialPost.com has this coverage. When will life return to normal? In 7 years at today's vaccine rates. In Canada, it's going to take more than 10 years at this rate. When will the pandemic end? It's the question hanging over just about everything since COVID-19 took over the world last year. The answer can be measured in vaccinations. Now, before I get into the details, I got to preface this by saying I have been trying to predict. I think this is the biggest question that I have not. I've had a lot of I told you so in the last year, but I got to say I was wrong in expecting things to have de-escalated with the COVIDiocy a little bit more than they have at this point, and it is. I didn't predict that with certainty. I said it was always a possibility that they're going to say mutations, they're going to say new strains, they're going to say we got to get the vaccine to everybody before we can let things go back to normal. And I am disappointed. It's a little bit more sustained than what I predicted, and it's gone on so long that I am afraid that a new possibility has emerged, which is that this is just a new layer of statism that's going to be with us as long as government is with us, until we evolve to voluntary government, or we somehow scientifically or with hygiene practices render all of this irrelevant. And I said, like, the worst that this can get, again, is at some point, the worst they can do is bully us all into, bubble boy world, where hazmat suits are cheap and disposable, and full head hoods that say you can go out and do anything and be, hygienically isolated if you want. Until we get to that point, maybe this is going to be with us as this dark cloud of COVID and really the government's responses to it hanging over everything. But one major dynamic, it's not the only one, that's why I have to preface this with all of that, is the vaccine. If the vaccines are readily available, then they can't use this as the excuse. I don't like that or relying on this as the way that it's going to end, because again, it's like making the wrong argument against the statism of this. It's not that the virus is not deadly enough to justify these policies. It's that these policies are never justifiable because they're fundamentally unethical, and I have the right to set my level of risk that I want to have in my life, and you can't tell me if I'm not hurting anybody that I can't do something, right? Or that you're gonna violently threaten me with consequences. You are now the aggressor and the criminal in that situation. So Bloomberg has built the biggest database of COVID-19 shots given around the world, with more than 119 million doses administered worldwide. U.S. science officials such as Anthony Fauci have suggested it will take 70% to 80% coverage of the population for things to return to normal. Bloomberg's vaccine tracker shows that some countries are making far more rapid progress than others, using 75% coverage with a 2-dose vaccine as a target. Israel, the country with the highest vaccination rate in the world, is headed for 75% coverage in just 2 months. The U.S. will get there just in time to ring in the 2022 new year, though North Dakota could get there 6 months sooner than Texas. So that the United States, that's what we're actually looking at by this metric. And I don't agree with so much of the premises of why this metric is, being imposed as the standard to get back to normal in the first place. But I do recognize that it is near the center of the momentum of this whole crisis and mainstream sentiment, that the herd will feel comfortable, or at least some of the racket will have played out if they don't get to some next extension tactic of either a vaccine, or either, because remember, like, this vaccine is not, none of them are 100%. Part of that is just because the vaccine mutates. This is like the nature of flu vaccines as well. They're not perfect. Last year's seasonal flu vaccine for the United States was only 10% effective. So they're going to tell, can you imagine being told by your government that the vaccine is completely safe and that it's necessary for your safety, and that if you don't get it, you won't be able to get a vaccine passport, and then you get the vaccine and you have adverse consequences, and they say, well, you're not guaranteed to not get sick, so you still have to take all these precautions that we're going to force you to take anyway. Oh, and by the way, we're not able to control the unvaccinated from stop them from doing anything. And the vaccine passports aren't really going to be a thing. We're just kind of going to use the corporate world to force them on some employees to keep their jobs, or bully them. But even then, there are going to be medical exemptions. And I just want to really encourage everybody, when we talk about vaccines, that you always have the option to opt out, and please consider for yourself the risks. Do the research and consider that if you really are in a position to be threatened by the virus, making the extra effort to maintain hygienic isolation, separation somehow where you're safe from being exposed to any viruses until the vaccines are stable and safe, or they've been out there longer. Like, please just weigh all of that, and weigh this. VaccineDeaths.com. United Nations forced to admit that vaccines from Bill Gates are spreading polio throughout Africa. A new report by the WHO, a branch of the UN, confirms everything we have long been saying about the deadly nature of Bill Gates' vaccination program in the third world. Entitled Circulating Vaccine-Derived Polio Virus Type 2, Sudan, the report outlines how polio vaccines from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation are spreading more polio throughout Africa. Not only that, but these relief jabs are killing young black lives in places like Chad and Sudan, where outbreaks of the vaccine-induced disease are spreading like wildfire. Now, I don't want to get too into this. It's a little, it's a little bit of a sidebar, but it does relate. And the next section in the story is Bill Gates is a virus much worse than COVID-19. But then it goes on, would you trust COVID-19 vaccines from Bill Gates in light of the polio fiasco? Now, let me ask you a question about Bill Gates's voice in this whole vaccine and polio and COVID conversation entirely. Based on your experience with Windows, do you really want to let this guy be making health decisions for you? Because, Windows, it's so virus-free and always a headache-free experience and such a pleasant user interface. And Windows is always smooth and reliable and running healthy. I mean, you get this guy made his money with Windows because of government-granted intellectual property privileges, not because they had the best product. They had a first-to-market advantage. They took advantage of the system. He took advantage of corporatism and central banking and all the other laws and economic structures in this country that favor big businesses with intellectual property, and he was able to capitalize on it better than anybody else. That's why, for so long, and they're not that bad now. I mean, but for so long, Windows was this thing that we just complained about. It was like, this is what and it was like, shit, yeah, why, and it was only libertarians really had the answers to go, why is the norm, why is the standard such a shitty headache of an operating system? All right, enough about Bill Gates. SF Gate, UK coronavirus variant spreading rapidly through United States study find. Yeah, I told you so, is that there were going to be variants and they were going to be used to scare people. The coronavirus variant that shut down much of the UK is spreading rapidly across the US, outcompeting other mutant strains and doubling its prevalence among confirmed infections every week and a half, according to new research made public Sunday. Of course, when they talk about this, I'm just skimming this article. It's like, it's all fear-mongering and almost no perspective in terms of what's the fatality rate, what are the symptoms, how many people get it who are actually completely asymptomatic and have no consequences to getting it whatsoever. There's no, and one of the things, again, that just pisses me off about this is that we don't have a clear sense of how dangerous this virus is and what appropriate measures should be taken, because people in power are taking advantage of their ability to scare us into overreacting to increase their power, to serve their sponsors, to do what they always wanted to do, to be Karens, right? NBCnews.com, Virginia woman dies shortly after COVID vaccination, though no link has been found. No cause of death was determined. It was not known if any underlying conditions might have contributed. Just have to share this headline in order to point out how some of these things are being talked about, right? If you get COVID and die at any point after that, they're going to, COVID death. But if you get the vaccine and then die the next day, I don't know, no link has been found. No, nothing to see here. Another from SF Gate, South Africa suspends Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine rollout after researchers report minimal protection against variant. And this is, I just have to point this out, and it really just the headline, and this is South Africa, but it's one example, it's a mainstream headline. maybe they're testing this tactic there, but if they can get away with it in South Africa and say the beatings will continue until morale improves, you will get vaccine after vaccine after vaccine until viruses aren't a thing or human life is not a thing, or we're all super rich and we all get to dominate and control you through the pharmaceutical tyranny of corporatism and government all in bed with each other. But now this is yeah, well, it's not really. We have a new variant. The vaccine's no good. Got to start all over. Yeah, back to square one. And we are coming up on what is it? Pretty close to 1 year anniversary of 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Reuters: Britain will not introduce COVID-19 vaccine passports. Uh, I was afraid it was a possibility, but a bit about, and I told you so. Um, London: Britain will not introduce COVID-19 vaccine passports, but people will be able to seek proof from their doctor if needed to travel to other countries. Vaccine deployment minister Nadim Zahawi said on Sunday, "We are certainly not looking to introduce as part of the vaccine deployment program." That is not conclusive, but I do think that there is a general effort to scare people into getting the vaccine, and at some point they're going to have to admit, oh well, we didn't really mean all of that. We can't really back up all of that, but yeah, we wanted to raise that fear factor. We thought it was for your own good, and this leads me to believe that one of the points of this as a teachable moment is like a child who had that experience with their parents, that they lied to them about something in a way that they thought was for their own good, and the child resents it, teenager perhaps, saying, no, I wanted the truth, you didn't need to lie to me, and now I don't trust you. There's a certain stepping into your own autonomy that goes along with that experience that I hope sinks in as a silver lining of this whole crisis. And as for how bad it could be, it is still. I have to share this story. This is 4 days ago from Canada, TorontoSun.com. Warmington man enforced detention in a Canada COVID hotel. Yeah, that's the thing. You'll have to forgive Steve Dusing for not believing there are no COVID-19 internment centers in Canada. I'm in one, the 34-year-old Scarborough man told the Toronto Sun on Tuesday. And yeah, maybe this is the modern, humane version of COVID-19 internment centers. Oh, it's a COVID hotel. It's an isolation hotel program of quarantine, right? Quarantine facility. And not by choice. Quote, as he said, I was told when I arrived at Pearson International Airport Sunday night from Charlotte that it was either 3 days quarantine or go to jail. So he was escorted on a shuttle bus from Pearson to the nearby Radisson Hotel on Dixon Road, but this is no normal hotel stay. So it's kind of like you can go to the nice jail or you can go to the mean jail. Oh, I'll go to the nice jail. As he said, quote, I'm not allowed to leave the room. There's a guard at the end of the hall, so we must remain in a ninth floor hotel room while waiting for the results of a COVID test he was forced to take. Joined by award-winning photographer Jack Boland, I interviewed Steve on the phone from the parking lot as we looked at him through the window of his room where he could see Tim Hortons, Harvey's Subway, and Swiss Chalet. All, well, Subway, Subway, but Tim Hortons, Harvey's, Swiss Chalet, great staples of the Kanakistani diet. But I was told I can't order in food. It feels like he's incarcerated. I don't have any say in it. The worst part is he left from visiting a friend in North Carolina. He got a COVID test as required by new rules before, it cost under $30, and he tested negative during his ordeal. He said, Dusing said his ordeal began when the Public Health Agency of Canada didn't accept this rapid test and ordered him detained until the results of their own test were known. The agency did not respond to the Sun's request for comment. Quote, I was escorted by police to a shuttle bus and taken to this hotel, which is fenced off from the public. I wonder if there's an element of, oh my gosh, because we've scared everybody about COVID, hotels are going out of business. I know how we can get hotels' business back. We'll force customers to stay at them as part of our quarantine policy. Yeah, I wonder who's paying for this. I hope he's not, but wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, now he's getting fed. He gets water sent up in a sandwich. He's getting fed effectively jail food. Yeah, I've actually looks like from what he's getting, I've had better food when I've been in jail. Yeah, this is just one. Got to go around the world. Even just north in Canada, this is part of the reality we're under right now. It is. It is. I mean, it's nice to be able to pretend like it doesn't affect us for a while, but the whole world has stepped into a Kafkaesque dystopian reality. Peter Yapel, wouldn't testing be the easiest way to infect everyone who knows if you're being tested or implanted with the virus itself? That's a little out there conspiracy wise, Peter. I think it's enough for them to achieve their goals with futile, counterproductive things like mask wearing and having people stand around to take tests. I do think that when they open, because I've been tested a few times, once was at a Walmart where or Walgreens. We drove up to the prescription, pharmacy drive-through window, and they handed my wife and I swabs and sterile bags, and we pulled them out and swabbed our noses where she could see it, put it back in the bag, and sent it in. I'm confident we were, and the other time it was a walk through. We walked, stood in line. This was near Seattle, and they stuck this. This is when they did the swab, like deep in your nose. So, but they pulled it out of sterile packaging. I don't think they need to resort to something as blatantly evil or obvious as deliberately infecting people. I mean, they're creating policies deliberately that they know are going to increase infections. That's enough, and that's irrefutable without even speculating to something much more evil than that. That is a possibility worth considering. I'll give you that, Peter. All right, L.A. Times via Yahoo. Months after contracting COVID-19, some will try anything to regain their sense of smell. And this is where they're trying to scare people with, well, it doesn't matter if most people are asymptomatic, or it doesn't matter if only a small number of people die. There are long haulers who have symptoms for extended periods and don't have and hey, to what extent this is real, maybe, but it's being presented without real numerical context, and a huge amount of this is psychosomatic because they've got people so afraid. Even I fell for it a little bit. All right, so WPXI New Jersey brothers kicked off flight to Super Bowl over specialty face masks. Yes, we start our Adam versus the Man Super Bowl coverage with what happened on the way to the game. A New Jersey man fighting hard to displace Florida man as America's most embarrassing person. A New Jersey man traveling to Tampa to work at the Super Bowl was kicked off a flight because of the special face mask he was wearing. Robert Joseph works in security and was taking a flight to the Super Bowl for his job. He had not flown since last March. A relative died from the coronavirus, so Joseph spent $85 on a narwhal mask, which is a face shield and breathing filter, which resembled a gas mask for safety. Going to the airport, I felt I was safe wearing this mask, having my own little bubble around my face to keep it protected. His brother, William Joseph, was traveling with him. They were handed different masks when they tried to board their 11 a.m. flight on January 23. He said they eventually put on the masks they were handed, but tried to carry theirs aboard and were told they were prohibited. At that point, they turned to me and said, it's not allowed on the plane. If you're not happy with our policies, you can leave. I said, no, I'm fine. I'm going to sit down. You don't have to hear another word from me. At that point, they said, no, we already told you to leave. Get off. That's when it spiraled out of control. They were kicked off the flight and waited 7 hours for another. Well, then they were at least able to say the mask that they don't allow, they were able to put in their bags. But this is so dumb. And here's their excuse. The airline told WNBC it could potentially create impediments in emergency scenarios, such as preventing clear communication between customers and crew members. But the thing, what's so dumb about this is that they said, okay, well, we'll wear your masks while we're on the flight. They were willing, and if they say, like, look, you can't do this because you're breathing out, it's not filtering, it's not stopping. Like, there's some masks that are there just to protect the wearer and vent the exhale without any filtration effect. And for those mask idiots, that it is that in and of itself sort of rational to say you can't wear that, so you can't carry it on the plane. This is where Karen flight attendants are getting carried away, and you have incidents like this. And this has happened at various times in recent American history. And now it's the drama is happening around masks. But all right, what happened at the game? Well, all right, sorry, skipping ahead one there, CJ. CNN was for Mediaite. CNN reporter aghast at maskless drunk Super Bowl crowds in Tampa. I asked the police, what are you doing about this? Okay, Karen, This is the disregarding Karen story of the day. There are actually two of them that go beautifully hand in hand here. I'm shocked to find that gambling is going on in here, exclaimed and not at all surprised Captain Louis Renault in the classic film Casablanca. And CNN reporter Randy Kay found herself shocked to find that Super Bowl crowds were drinking in Tampa before the big game. Reporting live from downtown Tampa, where the hometown Bucks are the first ever team to play the big game in their own stadium. Kate told CNN newsroom anchor Anna Cabrera that the production team was trying to enjoy it safely, but it was very crowded, and that's why she was double masked. Oh my gosh. If you look at the scene, some behind me, you can see that a lot of people are here. They gathered, they are already cheering for their favorite team. They're outside, so it's considered to be safer. And they are allowed to be here. They're only supposed to take their masks off while they're eating or drinking, but you can see quite a large crowd, certainly not all in one single family or one single household that are mixing. Kay then introduced a video clip from Saturday night in Ybor City area showing a massive crowd again, not many of them wearing a mask. Yeah, there were some police there, but we're unsure about citations. I spoke to the Tampa police and I asked them, what are you doing about this? A lot of people are very concerned, noting that the dance floors were full and many people were not wearing masks despite local mandates. If you're not wearing a mask and you can't safely social distance, you could be fined up to $500. That's largely ignored by many here in the city. The Tampa police tell me that they're very disappointed by what they've seen, and some of these establishments do risk being shut down, right? But it's like you don't have to wear a mask if you're eating or drinking. What do people do at Super Bowl parties? They walk around eating and drinking. But there's a better disregarding Karen moment. I mean, who's the ultimate? We have a Karen in chief. Joseph Biden, the POTUS, the pedophile of the, I'm sorry, POTUS, president of the United States of America. Joe Biden was at the Super Bowl as well. Joe Biden's Super Bowl moment of silence. And this is the headline from popculture.com. Joe Biden's Super Bowl moment of silence garners boos from crowd, surprising social media. Super Bowl, what is it? Is 55 is underway, and fans can watch the game for free. Before the big game, President Joe Biden and First Lady Jill Biden made an appearance at the Super Bowl to send a message to the fans while paying tribute to the frontline workers during the COVID-19 pandemic. During their recorded message, which was played on the video board at Raymond James Stadium, Biden asked fans for a moment of silence for the Americans who lost their lives during the pandemic.
Thank all the frontline healthcare heroes, both at the game and watching across the country. You put yourself at risk to keep the rest of us safe. You and your families carried us through this year with courage, compassion, and kindness. We couldn't have made it without you. With all our hearts, thank you.
And as we thank you and all of our essential workers, let's remember we all can do our part to save lives. Wear masks, stay socially distanced, get tested, get vaccinated when it's your turn. And most of all, let's remember all those who we've lost. So please join us, the Kansas City Chiefs, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the National Football League in a moment of silence for the more than 440,000 Americans who lost their lives in this pandemic and for their loved ones that are left behind.
Sorry, CJ. I thought we were gonna be able to get through this story without hearing it straight from the Karen in chief's mouth. But yeah, so to the story, fans didn't respond that well, as there were boos and cheers heard during the moment of silence, which led to some wild responses on social media. Of course, yes, very talked about moment. And this is the ultimate, really just disregarding Karen moment in all of this, and I love it. I love it. Man, the numbers become meaningless at some point. 440,000 Americans died. So this, maybe it's just me being a hopeless optimist. Maybe it's my rational belief in human progress, but I see this thing getting worse. I know that there is going to be even more of a rebound effect of people saying that we don't believe the bullshit anymore, and that the teachable moment is going to be that much more powerful the worse it gets. And I hate to say that we have to go through this, but perhaps we do. And this will lead to everybody, every American, even the ones that buy into it, are at least some kind of civil disobedience activists at some point, because you can't even follow all of the rules. It's crazy. It's crazy. So another one from popculture.com, fun story I got to share. Florida supermarket sparks outrage over customers and employees openly rejecting mask wearing rules. And this is great. This is from the owner, Mr. Oakes. Let's see, what I want to get his name right. But anyway, he's saying that, Alfie Oakes, the notoriously anti-mask owner of Oakes Farms Seed to Table, is now has been speaking out and has a sign on the door that says, we don't require masks, and the Karens are coming after him. So thank you for standing up and taking that. And I just want to conclude this block of COVID today by saying, disregard the Karens, not by fighting in their fear or resisting their gaslighting reframing of reality, but by addressing them with love and compassion and sympathy for them having been suckered into a state of fear. And that's our COVID block for today. All right, so I just realized our econ block is actually just 4 stories. So we're going to race through this, and then whatever comments CJ and Jim want to put up on screen, and we're going to get to CJ to wrap up the show here. But first, from Bloomberg via yahoo.com, Bitcoin rally takes crypto market value to new record. Bitcoin topped $40,000, and according to my Bitcoin.com wallet app today, it's at $44,000, new record. But this is from from 2 days ago. So, I got it. Don't worry, I got an updated story here. But this coverage is important for the overall analysis. The largest cryptocurrency rose more than 7% to $40,658 at 12 p.m. in New York Saturday, taking it closer to early January's all-time high of almost 42. The value of more than 6,000 tokens tracked by CoinGecko hit about $1.23 trillion. The jump comes after another volatile week in cryptocurrencies marked by Elon Musk's support for Bitcoin and a record run-up in Ether, the second largest token. Billionaire Musk also posted tongue-in-cheek tweets about Dogecoin, a Shiba Inu-themed unit that began as a joke during buying that drove its market capitalization past $6 billion, which gets us to our next story that is in this sequence of events. From the Wall Street Journal, Elon Musk's Dogecoin tweeting has believers barking for more. Cryptocurrency that started in 2013 as a joke is suddenly worth a total of more than $6 billion. The reckless abandon of the investing world as a new fixation of cryptocurrency that began in 2013 as a joke was mostly forgotten thanks to a flurry of tweets from Tesla's chief executive Elon Musk is suddenly worth a total of more than $6 billion. But to CNBC, and this story is from today, just before the show started, actually, Tesla buys $1.5 billion in Bitcoin, plans to accept it as payment. Tesla announced in an SEC filing Monday that it has bought $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin. The company also said it would start accepting it as payment method for its products. CEO Musk has been credited for raising the prices of cryptocurrencies, including Bitcoin, through his messages on Twitter. This is huge. Huge. All right, one final economic story, relatively unrelated, nothing to do with crypto at least, but definitely a nice, fun market. Good news. I almost saved this for our Friday show. From Reuters, Cuba opens door to most small business initiatives. And the story could be summed up as oh shit, communism is not working. How do we fill the gaps in human needs that have our people suffering? Oh yeah, let's unleash small business. Why not? Cuba opens door to most small business initiatives. In a major reform of the state-dominated economy, the Cuban government will allow small private businesses to operate in most fields, eliminating its limited list of activities. State-run media report on Saturday. The measure, coming as the Caribbean island seeks to recover from an economic slump, will expand the field from 127 activities to more than 2,000. Labor Minister Marta Elena Feito Cabrera was quoted as saying he spoke at a Council of Ministers meeting that approved the policy. How many of your freedoms can you have? You used to only have. Why am I doing a Russian accent? There's a Russian-Cuban connection? Okay, I should be doing a Cuban accent. I'm not going to try. But yes, you can have now over 2,000 freedoms as opposed to just 127. Yeah, she said there would be 124 exceptions, but the media reports provided no details. Yeah, reform-minded Cuban economists have long called for the role of small business to be expanded to help jumpstart the economy and to create jobs. There's going to be a fun lesson here. So many little big economic lessons you can look at Cuba and point to and say, yeah, see why this is making things shittier here, even in the United States. All right, CJ, let's get CJ back up. CJ is going to be the one apparently who determines who the winner of our contests are today for, I guess, what is our top super chat of the day and our comment of the day?
Let's see. I can't go scroll all the way back through to find the top super chat. But if you know who you are, it was 12 something, 10 in euro.
10 euros.
10 euros, cool.
How much is that in real dollars, real money?
It's 12 something.
All right, well, because we had a $10 super chat also.
$12.05. So if you were the one that sent us the euros this morning, my apologies. Like I said, I'm terrible with names.
Email us. We'll get you in the Producers Club.
Jim at the Freedom Line if you want to get a hold of Jim. And let's see here. Not that we're not grateful. And as far as best comment goes, it's supposed to be Jim's best comment. So I guess we don't have a winner until tomorrow when we can ask Jim, unless he's available now. But yeah, no, I don't care to make that what am I trying to say? I don't think there's a winner in that aspect today because it's Jim's comment pick. So we'll see what he says for tomorrow. Tune in tomorrow if you think that you won today or should have won today with your comment. We'll get tomorrow. But so real quick, if you want to help support this broadcast, please go to adamversustheman.com. And from there, please click the Patreon link, patreon.com/Adam versus the Man. This is where you can help with the production of the show, help be a part of that community. $10 is the sweet spot at our Patreon, which gets you access to our private Telegram chat if you didn't win a contest for the show that day. Being in the Producers Club is great. I highly recommend it. We have a great group of people that love to share content all day and night, and we're kind of just this little group of people that like to, put our thoughts down and, share our stories. There's nothing wrong with that. That's how, again, Adam gets content from the show. Admittedly, not all, but, a good portion of the show. And if you're like, hey, I just want to comment publicly, it is the public Telegram chat, t.me/Adam versus the Man. And we're going to be looking to grow that as our means of outside the mainstream conversation channels. So again, that's t.me/Adam versus the Man. After you do that, please go back and check out the store where, again, Patreon members do get 15% off and free shipping, as well as our Producer Club members with an exclusive promo code. And that'll help support the show. It's really fast shipping. It gets you within a couple weeks now, even during COVID. And yeah, we got everything on there. And then, as always, we appreciate our affiliate, Cigar Federation, where promo code ADAM10, that's ADAM10, gets you 10% off your order at cigarfederation.com. They have there's more flavors. I think we could spend a half hour just talking about their flavors. So that's an awesome way for you to support the show. And then last but not least, Adam, you have the Garden of Freedom, where everybody can see all the cool pictures of your cats. The cats of Gardenia, the scorpion kitties as they grow up and take over in the country of Gardenia. And you'll have lots of cats, I'm sure, as they are hard to get there. We have a little guest here today. That's my daughter, Aubrey. And she's going to nag me until it's time for a lunch and a snack. So
Mama,
that's the
I already had lunch.
Okay, so she already had lunch. So, but that's the promos, Adam. Hope you guys will help support. And as always, great show. Jim will be back hopefully tomorrow morning. And this one right here. All right. And so, yeah, we'll see you tomorrow, Adam.
And it was on this day in history, in 2021, that we realized it was time to start really properly, with love and compassion, disregarding the Karens. And that's our show for the day. Wow, peace and love, y'all. Choose happiness and be excellent to each other.